Welcome back to our lesson today on factoring by grouping. The objective for today is, after this lesson, we should be able to factor a four-term polynomial by grouping, specifically by using GCFs, or the greatest common factor. What does that mean? So the goal, factoring is like the reverse of the distributive property or multiplication of polynomials. So multiplication begins with two polynomials that are being multiplied, and it ends up with one longer polynomial that's written in standard form. So there's no parentheses or anything that we can do to simplify or combine like terms. Factoring kind of goes the opposite way. We're going to start with a polynomial that is in standard form, and we're going to take it and we're going to find factors, or we're going to break it up into two smaller polynomials that will multiply together to get us to that original one. But before that, let's review some basic skills. Specifically, we're going to review factoring the GCF from a binomial, because today's objective and goal is we can use GCFs to factor a four-term polynomial. So here our first example is 4x cubed minus 8x squared. So the GCF of this binomial would be 4, because 4 is the biggest number that goes into 4 and 8, and it would also include an x squared because they have an x squared in common. Now we want to know, what do we need to multiply by to get to that original binomial? If I'm already at 4, I don't need to multiply by any value other than 1 to get to my original 4 and the x cubed. But I do need another x because I'm only at x squared and I want to get to a cubed. So we'll put an x inside of our parentheses. So that will get us to our 4x cubed. Now I have my GCF of 4x squared, and I want to get to negative 8x squared. To get to negative 8, we need to multiply by a positive 2. And we don't need any variables because we already have x squared and we only want an x squared at the end. So this here would be our factored GCF from the original binomial 4x cubed minus 8x squared. We'll do another one. 6x plus 9. Factor the GCF from this binomial. 6x and 9 have a common factor of 3. There is no variable in this GCF because 9 does not have a variable. So all we have is the 3. You can think of factoring similar to division in the sense of, if my GCF is 3, I can take each term and divide by 3 and find out what I have left. 6x divided by 3 leaves me with 2x. And then do the same thing for that second term of the binomial. 9 divided by 3, well, that's going to leave me with a 3, so I'll put plus 3 inside those parentheses. So 6x plus 9 is going to factor out to 3 times the quantity of 2x plus 3. This is all we're going to be doing today, is just this, but we're going to do it twice for each polynomial. So this is where we're at right here. Factor the four-term polynomial by grouping. We're just going to GCF factor, but we're going to break this down into two sets of binomials. The first one is going to be looking just at these first two terms. Ignore the stuff that comes after that. Only focus on those first two. 3x squared plus 6. The GCF of those two terms would be 3x. So I'm going to write my 3x, and then I need to find out what is going to go inside those parentheses. Well, if I have 3x and I want to get to the original 3x squared, I'm going to need an x, and then the second term in that red box is 6x. GCF of 3x to get to 6x needs to be multiplied by 2, so that's my plus 2. That's my first GCF factoring. Now, because this is four terms, we need a symbol in the middle, and that symbol is going to be the exact same sign that is in the middle of my polynomial. So this one here is a plus sign, so we're just going to bring that plus sign down. And now we're going to repeat the process with that second group of terms. So this case, it's x plus 2. Our GCF of x and 2 is going to be 1. They don't have anything in common, so the GCF is just a 1. And I am going to write that so we can visually see that when we get to the end and we'll need that 1. If my GCF is 1, well, what do I need to multiply by to get to x? I need to multiply by x. And to get to 2, 1 times 2 will give me my 2. So here we've done our two sets of factoring for GCFs using the first two terms and the second two terms. But we're not actually done yet. We need to take this and write it so it looks like a binomial times a binomial, a product of 2. It's actually a lot easier than you realize. Notice how my parentheses match. I have x plus 2 inside of one set and x plus 2 inside the other one. We're going to take and we're going to write that first because that's the matching part. And then my other set of parentheses is the stuff that's on the outside and left over. So in this case, it would be 3x in the red from those first two terms. And then we have the plus 1 from the second two terms. And these two factors here, these two binomials, are going to be the factors that we end with. So this would be considered factored form. That's the end of this problem. We will eventually take this on further and finding x-intercepts with quadratics, but we are only focused on factoring right now. So this problem would be done. Let's go look at example number 2. Factor the 4-term polynomial by grouping. 2 at a time. Look only at the first two. 2x squared minus 12x. What is the GCF of these? 2 and 12 have a common factor of 2, and then x squared and x both have the x. So my GCF is 2x. Find out what I need to put inside my parentheses. Well, 2x squared, I already have 2x, so I need another x. And then I have a minus sign so that I can get to negative 12x. Negative 12x, and I'm already at 2x, I need to multiply by 6. There's our first set of GCF factors. Remember, this part right here is a new one. That middle sign is going to come down. So in this case, it's a subtraction sign because that's what that middle sign is in this polynomial. Take my middle sign down, and I have 8x and 48 as my other set of pairs, my other group of 2. 8x and 48 have a common factor of 8. Now, that minus sign is very important in front of the 8 because it's saying that I actually have a negative 8. So when I go to find my factor, what's inside those parentheses, I have to remember it's a negative 8. I'm at negative 8. To get to negative 8x from that yellow box up top, I need to multiply by an x. The second term in that yellow box is 48. If I'm at negative 8 and I want to get to positive 48, I need to multiply by another negative value, which is your negative 6. So that is why we have x minus 6 inside those parentheses. Notice again, my parentheses here match. X minus 6 and x minus 6. That's exactly what we want to have happen. Because when those match, we can write our factors. First one I'm going to write is x minus 6, because that's the part that matches. And then I'm going to take the pieces on the outside, that red and yellow GCF, and put them inside my other set of parentheses. So I have 2x minus 8. And this here would be our factored form. And that's all we're doing today is we're not going any further. We're just going to stop right there at factored form. I'm going to do one more problem with you, and then I'll let you guys try one on your own. Here we have our 4-term polynomial. So we're going to take the first 2 terms, we're going to group those together. 2w cubed plus 3w squared. Find the GCF of those 2 terms. In this case, it would be w squared. Now ask yourself, what do I need to multiply by to get to that original set of terms? Or think of it as that division. If I take 2w cubed and I divide by w squared, I need that 2w still. And then if I take 3w squared and I have a GCF of w squared, the only thing I still need is to multiply by 3. So 2w plus 3 goes inside that set of parentheses. Your middle sign is going to come down no matter what sign it is. This case it's a plus sign. And now we can GCF factor the last 2 terms. 16w plus 24. 16w and 24 have a GCF of 8. That is the largest common factor that goes into both of them. And now I want to find out what goes inside that set of parentheses. If I'm at 8 and I want to get to 16w, I need to multiply by 2w. And then I'm also still at 8, but now I want to get to 24, that second yellow term. So I need to multiply by 3. So I have my 2w plus 3 in the parentheses. My parentheses match. Always check. Make sure that they match. 2w plus 3 and 2w plus 3, they match. I'm going to go ahead and write that factor first. And then the second factor is what's left on the outside, those GCFs, w squared plus 8. That's our factored form. Okay, here's example 4. I want you guys to press pause for a moment and I want you to try it out. Take them, break it into 2 groups, find your GCF, and then make sure those parentheses match. So press pause now and then come back once you've finished and we'll check it together. All right, you've tried this problem. Let's run through it. The first 2 terms are 6y to the 4th minus 10y cubed. So those are the ones I'm going to look at. Their GCF is going to be 2y cubed. And when I factor out that 2y cubed, it leaves me with 3y minus 5. So that's going to be that GCF factor of those first 2 terms. Bring my middle sign down, so I'm going to have a plus sign. And now we're going to look at the last 2 terms and GCF factor those. 15y squared minus 25y. That GCF, or the greatest common factor, is 5y. When I factor out that 5y, I find that I need 3y minus 5. Pause for a moment, check your factors. Do my parentheses match? Yes, they do. That's a good thing. That's kind of a built-in self-checking mechanism. So I'm going to write that factor first, 3y minus 5. And then the second factor comes from those GCFs on the outside. 2y cubed plus 5y. And that's our factored form. So just remember, take everything by 2s. 2 by 2, 2 fact terms at a time. And your parentheses need to match. That's key here. If you didn't get it the first time, this is a video. Go ahead, replay, rewatch as many times as you need to. And I'll check back in with you guys in our next lesson.